Hi, my name is Lauren and I did Ebola for my disease report. So the first emergence of Ebola cases in humans occurred in 1976 in Central Africa. So there were two main locations of the outbreak. So the first outbreak occurred in South Sudan. So you can kind of see the red splotches there is South Sudan, and then the other one occurred in the Democratic Republic of Congo. So these two locations are about 500 miles apart from each other. So it was definitely in question whether one virus was the start of both of these outbreaks or two separate viruses caused two separate outbreaks. So it was later discovered that the Sudan Ebola virus caused the South Sudan outbreak, and that the Zaire Ebola virus caused the Democratic Republic of Congo outbreak. The virus was named after the Ebola River, which is located in a village in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the location of that first outbreak in 1976. So the structure of the Ebola virus is shown here. They are part of the Filoviridae family. They are negatively stranded and have lipid-encased RNA viruses, and they are characteristic of zoonotic diseases. So as is shown here in both of these images, it is very much like a thread-like stringy virus. It kind of has what they call a shepherd's crook at the end of its tail, and at the top it forms a U shape. The virus has glycoproteins that can extend for up to 10 nanometers off of the lipid surface, and these glycoproteins are what are responsible for attaching to and entering the host. Through budding, the outer viral envelope is incorporated onto the host cell membrane. So you can kind of see these two have very similar, two different depictions of very similar characteristics of that. Those two loops in that U shape right here, and the glycoproteins that can extend off of the lipid surface. So how does the Ebola virus actually attack a person? So first, a person comes into contact with an infected person or animal through blood or other body fluids, and then the white blood cell count is destroyed and depleted as the immune system is attacked. Blood clots damage organs and deplete vital clotting agents, which this depletion of clotting agents is the cause of many outside infections. And common organs affected are the brain, liver, kidneys, intestines, eyes, and genitals. And internal and external bleedings are key characteristics of the Ebola virus. So the eyes are that organ affected, and they are the source of external bleeding. Death results in organ shutdown or hypovolemic shock, and hypovolemic shock occurs when the body has lost 20% of its blood or other body fluids. So what are some basic facts about Ebola? Ebola virus disease stems from an infection with a group of viruses in the genus Ebola virus. And there are four prominent strains of Ebola virus in humans. So the Zaire Ebola virus, the Sudan Ebola virus, the Thai Forest Ebola virus, and the Bundibugyo Ebola virus. So the Bombali and Reston Ebola viruses are not included in these four prominent genuses, but they can be fatal in other primates such as pigs and bats. Ebola is considered to be a zoonotic disease, as is characteristic of the Filoviridae family. So various types of transmission may include animal-to-animal transmission, animal-to-human transmission, and human-to-human transmission. Ebola is very potent and has a 50% mortality rate. I kind of like this image by the CDC. So it depicts animal-to-animal transmission. So a bat is the main carrier of Ebola virus in animals, and so bats may often infect apes, other monkeys, antelopes, and eventually humans. So that's when the spillover event occurs, when an animal infects a human. So on hunting trips, when a person has caught an animal and is exposed to the blood or other body fluids, that person is susceptible to contract Ebola virus. And then that person can put others in danger because human-to-human contact, again, occurs through body fluids and blood. So here I have the incubation period curve. The average incubation period for Ebola is about 13 days, so it's 12.7. Symptoms may begin between 2 days up to 3 weeks after exposure, while in most cases it's 8 to 10 days post-exposure that symptoms begin. There are three groups of symptoms, each occurring at three separate points in the incubation period. So the first 7 days is characterized by intensified flu-like symptoms such as fever, weakness, muscle aches, and chills. Patients have reported extreme weakness and muscle aches that it's debilitating for movement. And around the second third of the incubation period is when these more severe symptoms begin to manifest, such as nausea, chest pains, little to no urine production, bruising, and bleeding from the eyes, nose, mouth, and rectum. So that's kind of that key characteristic of Ebola, showing that external bleeding is with these portals of entries in any orifice of the body. In the final stage of illness, it may occur with pretty severe symptoms such as seizures, brain swelling, organ failure, and eventually death. So some treatment options include, during that first part of the incubation period, when symptoms are sort of more dramatic flu-like symptoms, intravenously or orally supplying the body with fluids and electrolytes, and taking supplemental medications to reduce nausea or maintain steady blood pressure is kind of more common towards that second part of the incubation period. And other infections may arise, and those are fought as they come. So there are two FDA-approved treatments right now. One is Inmazeb, and the second is Ebanga, which are two drugs, both recently approved in 2020. So they particularly attack the Zaire Ebola virus, which is the most prominent in humans. So prevention: avoid contact with blood and body fluids of those who are sick, especially in males. Ebola virus can remain in the semen for up to 7 weeks post-recovery. So this is dangerous, as a person may be recovered in perfect health, but they still need to get tested to make sure that it has escaped all body fluids. Other body fluids that it remains in is like spinal fluid and other areas that are protected and encased in muscle. Avoid coming in contact with items that may have been exposed to body fluids. So this can include clothes, bedding, pillows, anything that the person may have touched. So body fluids, when they're in room-like temperature settings, can be perfect hosts of Ebola virus for up to several hours after the infected person has touched that inanimate object. And definitely avoid needles and other medical equipment used by healthcare providers, and they should be properly disposed of post-use. Do not touch the body of a person who has passed away from Ebola. Funerals pose a particular challenge because, as I would talk about, in Western African culture, it is very common to transport the body of a loved one to their hometown for burial, which poses an extreme danger because corpses can still carry Ebola virus and infect those who come in contact with the corpse. Avoid contact with non-human primates, and again, do not consume raw meat. So I kind of like this image. It kind of reminds me of the beginning of COVID, when hazmat suits were kind of first. This is kind of the first time I was seeing hazmat suits, but Ebola is definitely in need of hazmat suits because no part of the skin should be exposed when dealing with a patient with Ebola virus, since body fluids and blood are the source of transmission, and a purifying respirator is needed. So there are two different vaccines to treat Ebola virus. So the first one is Ervebo, which was approved by the FDA in December of 2019, so 2 years ago. And this is a single-dose vaccine, which is the first type of vaccine that the FDA approved. So the second type of vaccine is the pre-exposure vaccine, which is a little bit different from Ervebo because it is only for those who are extremely susceptible to Ebola, such as those working in bio-level 4 labs and those who are actively assisting in an outbreak. So recent outbreaks, although it was discovered in 1976, there were no outbreaks of Ebola until about 2014. So this 2014 through 2016 outbreak was probably the biggest outbreak of Ebola, caused by the Zaire Ebola virus, which is again the most prominent in humans. Almost 30,000 people were infected, while about 1/3 of those people ended up passing away from Ebola, making the mortality rate for that particular event about 33%. And And this was the first time humans had Ebola in the West African region instead of animals. So this is kind of why funerals pose as the spread of the outbreak, because in West African tradition, those who wish to pay respect to the dead bury them in their hometown, increasing the spread of the virus to those and unknowingly. In 2018 through 2020, there was another outbreak, not as large, but it took 2,300 lives in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, and June 25th of last year marked the end of that outbreak. And in 2021, a relatively short 3-month outbreak occurred at the start of the year, but it ended on May 3rd of last year. Thank you so much and have a good finals week.